There's never a shortage of conservative bullshit to cover. Folks, lately we've been wanting to talk about immigration and to make a broader point of internationalization and how every nation's working class should not only make efforts to unionize and cooperatize, but should also strive to abolish borders as we know them in an effort to not only dissolve the neoliberal concept of the nation state as we know it, but to also promote a free flow of humanity and cultures across the globe, because by doing so, we'll all recognize we have more in common than we think, especially amongst people of the same classes. In terms of how the life of one person in America operates materially when they're working 8 hours a day for $8 an hour, barely having enough time to cook food and collect their thoughts before they acquire enough resting time in order to recharge in preparation for the next 8 hours of agony. The dissolution of borders will help the international working class realize that the actual solutions they need in their lives are material solutions whose endgame is the end of labor entirely. Typically, if one were to call themselves someone who's in favor of free markets, this would imply they're in favor of free exchange across all borders, but we're not acting like conservatism isn't built on contradictions. Today's freak for our show is Steven Crowder trying and failing to debunk Adam Conover's criticism of Trump's border wall, which at this point looks more like a fence than anything. Watch Crowder stumble over his words and constantly go against points he's made seconds prior. Let's watch.
No one's getting past me.
Yes, they are, because it's estimated that between 27 and 40% of all undocumented immigrants in America came here on planes.
27 to 40% of our people coming on planes, he goes on to say, overstaying their visas. Got it. Have you done the math yet? That means at minimum 60% of illegal immigration doesn't occur from planes and visas.
Yeah? Mere seconds in and this guy is already failing to understand Adam's point. The implication here is, if you're gonna have heavier border security, why not be consistent and have, say, a better funded TSA as an option instead of just the wall? Even early on, the mere idea of a wall. Even when I was 12 back in 2015, it always sounded like one of the most childish and ape-brained ideas in history to me, and knowing Trump's mental maturity, in hindsight, it turns out I wasn't that far off. Immigrants face significantly tougher adversities than a wall, and you think a few slats are gonna stop them? Get real!
Planes and visas. Adam Ruins Everything as a show. I've actually really liked Adam Ruins Everything on quite a few things. They've taken some sort of, I guess, libertarian stances, but generally speaking, it's pretty informative. This is one where they were completely wrong. If you're
the only one who's wrong here is you.
Plausible what he says, but I've got some information here that might just smack you over the head. So let's roll the first clip.
La verdad es que la pared no lograría nada. Building a wall would actually increase the number of illegal immigrants in America.
Nope.
What? How could it possibly?
Here, I'll show you.
First off, that is not true. Let me tell you.
He's completely correct. Even if we were to grant that a fully maintained and secured wall was effective at keeping people from south of the border out, what you're not thinking about is illegals who are already here, because it'll only constrain circular flow harder than it already is. And not only this, but most illegal immigrants come here legally and just overstay their visas. This results in illegals staying here because if they were to try to legally get out of the country, they'd run the risk of prosecution. I couldn't think of a greater way to exacerbate the problem.
Here, a book that I recommend. It's up on my page, Stolen Sovereignty, How to Stop Unelected Judges from Transforming America. Daniel Horowitz. He talks about illegal immigration quite a bit in a way that is very informative and very enlightening.
No one's getting past me.
Yes, they are, because it's estimated that between 27 and 40% of all undocumented immigrants in America came here on planes.
I forgot about planes.
And that's just said so flippantly, right? Oh, building a wall because 27 to 40% of our people coming on planes, he goes on to say, overstaying their visas. Got it. Have you done the math yet? That means at minimum 60% of illegal immigration doesn't occur from planes and visas.
As I addressed in the intro, Crowder, this not only marks an inconsistency, but the wall doesn't tackle the underlying issue. Because most illegals come here legally, the wall is assuming they're just crossing the border without their papers being processed. It's only gonna make things worse. It's not gonna fix anything.
Some would call that a majority,
Up to 73%. At least not planes and visas. So here's the deal. Does it mean that a wall will fix everything? No one's saying that. But if you could have some sort of an effect on, let's use the most conservative figure, 60% of illegal immigration by his own admission, How is that not significant enough to build a wall? Joe Rogan talks.
Because most immigrants come here legally, and tightening border security is only going to persuade them to stay.
Joe Rogan talks about this. If you had a ham sandwich that was 60% crap and 40% ham, you'd probably do something about the crap. It's still 60% crap. So
real charitable to call people who cross some arbitrary line crap. Fucking racist piece of shit.
Should concern you. It debunks the entire argument.
No, it doesn't.
If you believe that even curbing that pesky little 60 to 70% is worthwhile, you don't even need to watch the rest of the video. I do. I assume many of you do. Let's assume you say, you know what? I'll give them 60 to 70%.
I know the phrase, I feel like I'm talking to a brick wall, but I think a brick wall would be more receptive to what I'm saying. Most illegals come here legally.
It would easily be one of the single most expensive pieces of infrastructure in American history, costing as much as 20 Hoover dams or NASA's entire annual budget.
Just an annual budget?
So not that
Just
much.
one?
One annual budget? This is supposed to turn us off?
I say we turn NASA off for a year.
Turn NASA off. Just throttle
Clock
it
out.
for a year, like the UN will do with the internet.
Yep.
Throttle it a little bit and just start putting up the wall.
This is the ultimate example of Crowder and his Twig Boy co-hosts' deception. What they conveniently omitted was the fact that NASA's annual budget was $2.26 billion in 2020. And these are the people saying Social Security will run out and that we can't afford a public option and that infrastructure projects should be privatized and food stamp coverage shouldn't be extended and that we can spend as much as we want on Israel.
It is that's not that expensive, particularly when you look at the economic ramifications. Positive ones when you stop illegal immigration. Next clip.
Positive economic effect? Oh, I'd love to go down this line of inquiry. Crowder, how do you feel about the fact that immigrants not only create more jobs than they take, but have a positive effect on wages once they're given citizenship? And on top of this, enabling more than 2 million immigrants each year to come to the US would lead to a $2,500 increase in GDP per capita by 2050. So don't come at me with this positive economic effects when reality sways to my perspective.
Even by your estimate of visa overstays, the wall would still stop about half of America's 11 million illegal immigrants.
No, it wouldn't, because of a little something called circular flow. Here, I'll show you. For decades, immigration to the U.S. was a circular flow. People would come, work for a bit, and then after they were done, go home to their families.
That's morally reprehensible.
Wait, what? How? Just saying something is morally reprehensible and using intentionally vague language to obfuscate what you're saying doesn't make it so. What's so bad about that? I mean, legal immigration rates were higher at a time like this.
That was never what America was intended to be. It wasn't intended to be a revolving door so people could come in, abuse a system, and leave. You don't come to a country to drain from the country to send to other countries. That's not how a country works. That's not being ethnocentric. That's not being xenophobic. That's called having a country, okay?
There are multiple things wrong with these claims. If you think America was supposed to be what was decided by the founding fathers, this is what I'm assuming because it's always just up to them, libertarians constantly go on about how the founding fathers rebelled against England for the very reasons you keep trying to perpetuate. Oh, and the statements about quote-unquote draining from the country are just flat out wrong because both legal and illegal immigrants work here and pay taxes. But let's just grant that illegal immigrants don't pay taxes for the sake of argument. All the more reason to give them amnesty, right? Once they're documented, we could ensure they're paying taxes.
Revolving door, they talk about people coming in revolving door to work and send back benefits.
They also pay taxes to us.
You don't get to do that. You move here legally, period, right? We've already covered that.
What about crossing some arbitrary line is so sacrosanct to you? If your whole issue is that they're only sending benefits back to their home countries, you're just dead wrong.
Revolving door right now and not paying for healthcare and not paying taxes and getting all of the social benefits, the benefits from the social safety net from hard work.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
I couldn't think of a series of more wrong statements made. We've already falsified the claim. Yet another false claim Crowder makes is that illegal immigrants are taking advantage of social services when even DACA holders are ineligible for most federal public benefits, which includes food stamps, Medicaid, SSI, TANF, and the ACA, just to name a few. You and every other right-winger is just wrong about everything.
Americans. It's never supposed to be a revolving door. And it's worse now because a lot of illegal immigrants aren't really coming here to work. Not all of them, but many of them are coming here and they're taking more than they're giving.
That's just, again, axiomatically wrong, because a 2017 report from the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine found that second-generation immigrants who aren't even citizens at that point contribute $1,700 to the economy every year, while most native-born Americans contribute $1,300 a year on average. You're wrong about literally everything.
New York and then living in New Jersey.
No,
it's a little bit different.
It's a little bit
A little bit
different.
different.
Next clip.
It's counterintuitive, but building a wall wouldn't stop people from coming in. It would actually stop them from going back.
The number of illegal border crossings is actually at an all-time low.
No, that's not true. I have it up right here. Washington Examiner. Illegal border crossings by children and families are surging again and will put the fiscal year of 2016 on par with 2014. There's a chart for you.
Holy fucking shit, Crowder. Do you not have the basic reading comprehension skills to know when the data he's using was taken from? He's showing the illegal border crossing apprehensions from 2015, which was probably the year that episode was produced, knowing TV shows. You published your video in late 2016, and there's no way they could have had the hindsight to know that illegal crossings would suddenly rise. And lately, they've been precipitously rising as Biden continues to build Trump's wall. Ironic, isn't it? It's almost like the wall isn't deterring anybody at all from trying to cross the border. Oh, and I love how they again conveniently omitted the fact that the guy speaking in that clip was an expert on immigration, just when I'd think conservatives couldn't get any more dishonest. My expectations are shattered.
Here's why. Listen, at a certain point, of course, immigration is going to start slowing down because Mexico has dumped a tenth. 10% of its population have moved to the United States. So at a certain point, you're going to hit a critical mass of how many people can leave their crappy country to a better country, the United States. 10%, 12, maybe it'll go back to 8, it'll hover around there. Now, here's why this chart occurred. Because of actually the deportations, as they've plummeted, more people have been coming back in. And now,
but Crowder, a wall won't solve anything because to deport someone, they already have to be here illegally. You're missing Adam's broader point again in that building the wall will only disincentivize migrants from periodically coming into the country and going back out.
That we had in 2014. So the inverse is true of what they've said. As deportations have plummeted, as Barack Obama tried to act, and really what's happened is people are being treated more humanely they would. Well, there's now all of a sudden we see this. You can see this sort of like a fat caterpillar in the graph.
To borrow from the man himself.
Wrong.
Compare these two graphs, and I know he doesn't have the hindsight for this, but he's making a prediction, but deportation rates and illegal migrant crossings are correlative with each other. The less people we deport, the less people try to come back in. What you're saying is the inverse of reality. Now that Trump has had 4 years in office, it's been proven that deportation policy doesn't work.
Illegal immigration again, of course, and the problems that come with that. Draining on the system, the problem of the social safety net.
Which are completely unfounded, as I've just proved.
God, Adam, you're right. The wall isn't the answer.
Oh, good. I'm so glad I could help.
Millions of people are already here. We need to deport them. Yes, deportation is the answer.
No.
All right, there you go. Because of course it's racist to deport people who've broken the law to come here illegally.
That's not what we're saying. We're saying your racism makes you want to put up a stupid wall.
With Will, it would only help with maybe half, maybe 60, 73%. And so if you just hear that, you don't even think about it. You're thinking you heard 10%. You go, well, then that's silly. Why would we spend the whole NASA budget to stop 10%? No, you're spending actually a very reasonable budget, and we can get Mexico to pay for at least a portion of it if you look at the actual plans and tariffs and what you can do with the transfer of money. Donald Trump isn't completely unrealistic to get them to pay for a portion of it. You can pay for that. It's realistic, and that would deal with 60 to 70-something% of illegal immigration. But if you don't...
Could this dumbass strawman his opposition more? Of course, most people cross the border, but 62% of illegal immigrants come here legally, but just overstay their visas, whether they're on flights or not. The wall would let people with visas through, right? That's why it's a waste of time and money.
Understand what you're hearing. You go along with them down that logic trail, and you follow them with false idea, false narrative to the point where deportation is racist, and you get to call Donald Trump or people like us racist, people like me who come from legal immigrants like my mom who learned the language, who pay taxes, who are active contributing citizens.
Crowder, you're a rich Canadian. You didn't come here out of fear for your life. Mexico is a country that's perpetually destabilized because of our war on the cartels. However, what dumbfuck conservatives like you don't realize is that by legalizing things like sex work and drugs, the cartel loses all their sources of revenue and Mexico would be stabilized to the point where they aren't constantly coming here. Oh, and it's ironic that you mentioned false statistics when literally every point you've made has been disproven by the data I brought up.
Citizens, this idea that we don't take in enough legal immigrants, it's just not true. It's not even close. 50% of all immigrants since 1965 have come from Latin America, 29 from Mexico alone. That's not even taking into account people who come here illegally, who overstay visas. More people have come to the United States from Mexico than any other country in our modern history, okay? Over the past 44 years, I have these numbers. 6.65 million people have emigrated legally to the United States, compared to the previous world record holder, Italy, 4.5 million.
So why not end the cartel's ability to maintain themselves so there's not such an influx of people? Oh wait, conservative republicanism as an ideology seeks to perpetuate conflicts to benefit capital interests.
It's not even close. This idea that we don't take enough Mexicans in legally, that it's incredibly hard, more legal people have come to the United States from Mexico by an unbelievable margin. It can be done. It's been done from Mexico more than any other country, and of course it's been done by plenty of other countries. So building a wall, beefing up the security, well, you have to decide, is it worth it to spend a relatively small amount to stop 60 to 70% of illegal immigration? I don't know. I leave that to you.
I don't know. I'll leave that to you.
Of course he expunges why so many immigrants are coming from Mexico, and that's because of America's brutally authoritarian policies regarding sex work and drugs. Well, that's another day of being right about everything and having no one besides other leftists listening. Literally all of Crowder's positions and statements have been falsified, and he has utterly failed to debunk Adam's points. So not only have I destroyed this professional liar, but Adam's points still stand, because this guy is too much of a dumbass to say anything that aligns with reality. Well, that's it for this video, folks. Stay tuned to what we're putting out because we're gonna take a deep dive into Nick Fuentes' cult soon.